Hi, this is Eric Molin, and this is Impact Presenting, podcast episode 9. In this episode, I'll speak with Andrew Barton, who's Global Vice President of Consulting Services for Tricencis, a global leader in automated software testing. With a team of almost 100 people spread worldwide, Andy has quite a lot of experience giving virtual presentations, and he and I take a few moments to discuss what's working, what's not working, and what people need to keep in mind for better presentations, and what leaders should keep in mind when trying to rally their teams at a distance. Morning, Andy. How you doing today?
Not bad, Eric. Thanks. Yourself?
Doing good. Really great that we could finally get some time on the schedule together to talk. I know we've been trying for a while.
It's not that easy, actually. People assume just because people are working from home that we've got more time. It's the opposite, I feel sometimes.
So before we get started, maybe you could just tell us a few words about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Originally came from Ireland, based in Vienna. I've been here for 21 years, married with a couple of kids, and been working in technology industry for 23, 24 years now, software industry for 15 years. I work as I lead the global consulting services organization for Tricencis, who are we're a leader in automated software testing. I run a consulting team of just under 100 people spread over about 10 countries, from as far off as Melbourne to the west coast of the USA and many places in between.
Wow. So, I mean, even without a pandemic, you'd be spending quite a lot of time on video calls.
Yeah, an awful lot. I think I started using video conferencing about, I'd say 6 or 7 years ago. The last 2-3 years has seen a significant increase, and obviously the last 2 or 3 months has been all video conferencing. So it's been a gradual ease, but I think a break away from video conferencing sometimes is nice, but it's here to stay, and it's constant.
Everyone's out there presenting virtually. Some people are doing a good job. Some people are doing a lousy job. So let me get some input from you. How do you find the virtual presentations? Strengths, weaknesses, things that you see going well, in your opinion, things that people need to work on, and what some key challenges are. Maybe we'll discuss that for our listeners.
I think for me, the biggest challenge now is there are so many distractions for the audience that previously weren't there. Very easy you can't sit in the front row and pick up your phone and start WhatsApping people, even though people do. It's much easier to do it now when, I'm even doing it now as I speak to you, but
looking guilty.
So I think the audience engagement is going to be key. And some way that the speaker can be aware of what's going on in the audience. I mean, it's easy to do it when you're on stage. So for example, for me, if I'm ever presenting, I always have, to a virtual audience, I always have 2 screens. It kind of, sometimes it takes my eye off something, but I like to be able to see the faces. Are my audience engaged or not? I think one thing is taking far more breaks from content presentation, referring to see, are the audience engaged, and just being mindful that they probably could be doing different things. Maybe they need to multitask or whatever. So not forcing them to engage and forcing them to be, fully there. But be mindful that people are tend to multitask more, but try and re-engage the audience and try and keep the audience always engaged.
Do you have a rule for webcams on?
Absolutely.
See, I had a class, and it was 24 people. And very early on, it was just, once somebody asked a question and the audio quality was horrible, related to his individual connection. So the host, somebody else was hosting this on my behalf, so they cut off his mic, and we used the chat window a lot. But there were a lot of webcams turned off. And I'm just talking, and I can see some people are writing notes and they're really interested. And then I'm looking at others like, okay, is that person even there?
I know, but I mean, it's fair. But I mean, we must take advantage of technology. And I think it's as much benefit for the other individuals to see other people's faces and not just the presenter's face. I mean, otherwise we could just jump on a conf call If we're not going to turn on webcams, why use the technology?
Right.
I know sometimes there are challenges with bandwidth that people kind of use as excuses, but I mean, if they want to do it, that's fine. Sometimes it's a problem, sometimes it's not.
Right.
But I typically have a rule, and sometimes I'm having calls with people at the same time. I may be midnight in Europe,
right.
So I can speak to my team in Melbourne at 8 a.m. in the morning, and my team in the west coast of the States at whatever it is, in the afternoon. So, the guy in Melbourne is getting out of bed. I'm ready for bed, and we're not going to look the prettiest, but it's still us. So I really don't see the point in not having it on.
Yeah.
I also think it's important to prepare for your meeting. It's not a case of, I didn't brush my hair, or I didn't shave, or something like that. I mean, just because we're virtual doesn't mean everybody should see me in my pajamas and sitting on the couch at home. I mean, I can still sit at a table, and I can still look reasonably well.
But the opposite is true. Even on live stage, people do really worry too much about themselves, and is this the right suit? What about a piece of jewelry or whatever? And
it's important to be comfortable.
That you're delivering.
Yeah.
And everyone, for quite a long time, there was this kind of Corona cut. People couldn't go to hairdressers, and so what are you going to do? It doesn't matter your hair. Just my colleagues and associates, and it was just like, wow, okay, so that's another talent I have, cutting my own hair, that these guys don't. All right.
I know we have a couple of people. We have a couple of people in our in my team, and I mean, they'll know who they are when they listen to this podcast. They had very, very wild haircuts. There was I think it's important that people are comfortable when they're presenting.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily mean you need to be, 1 month post-corona lockdown, unshaven and looking like that. So I think it's good to be ready for your audience. It's good to say, good, looking well, but comfortable, and don't overthink it.
Yep. So we've discussed the importance of engaging the audience, and online there are some really great tools for that. So maybe we'll run through a couple of your favorite techniques or tools that you use. I'll add a couple. Maybe give you some fresh ideas, and for our listeners, how they can make it more than just, hey, here's the slide, now let me read it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing for me as we go into this new era of more hybrid working environment, remote presenting, etc., engaging the audience is obviously fundamental. Be mindful of the audience and the audience's needs, and the fact that the audience are far more easily distracted. And that's not their fault. It's just they're in a different setting that's now new. So engaging them with new techniques. Using tools, obviously, that have video on with Zoom or whatever it is. I think it's very important also to use whiteboarding features if we're doing some sort of design work or strategic work, like that. Not too much content on PowerPoint slides. People can read. You can send them the slides. I think focus on key points, not too much detail, audience engagement.
Okay. Well, all of those things you mentioned, those are really important. The whiteboard features on WebEx, on Zoom, they're excellent. And I think the trick with those is just to realize they are very crude. And, it's tricky. If you're lucky to have a touch screen, they're wonderful. It's just the same as using a normal whiteboard. But I wouldn't recommend it without it. It needs to be a seamless experience for like a drawing pad or a touch screen. You can't just, you try to use your mouse. Exactly. But the annotation features can be used pretty easily by anyone on any platform. And what I found is the annotation features, when you're discussing things and you write the word out, people see that it's the same as using a whiteboard or a flip chart in a live presentation. They see you with the thought, communicating that, formulating and communicating that. They see the process, as it's happening. And there's an authenticity and an energy that comes with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can take annotation and add it to something like mind mapping.
Exactly.
People
can get in there and add their notes. They can have their colors. You can have fun assigning them different colors. And I think the last thing, and it sounds really simple, like almost, too simple to actually work, but using the hands. When you're talking, stepping back from the webcam, stepping back from your area and letting, your body move a little bit. I'm not saying to step far back so far that they have to see your whole body and your feet, etc. Not at all. But I find people tucking, and I understand that people don't have control over this. If you have a family, if you have children, right? Anyone like you, perhaps, that you don't always get that kind of space. But I also see people tucking themselves into little corners. And tucked into that little corner, the problem is that then you tend to sit still. And usually using hands is something we talk about for being on stage in front of a live audience. There's scientific research that it increases the impact of your talk. But also, it helps you to feel enthusiasm. And so, yes, when you're looking at that sea of faces on the webcams, if somebody's using their hands, you can see, yes, it's their turn to talk. But also for you as the speaker, it gives you more enthusiasm and more passion about your subject.
Absolutely.
So, Andy, really appreciate you taking some time with us today. I know you're a busy guy and you have another call to get to, but in closing, what key piece of advice would you give to other executives out there who are finding themselves kind of missing that personal presence when it comes to rallying and motivating and getting their teams pulled together and on what everyone wants them to be working on?
Yeah, I think a great question. Is definitely 2 or 3 things very quickly. Take advantage of technology, collaboration, and regardless of whether it's Zoom or Teams, but also communicate and over communicate via Slack, via Zoom, is something like Rike. Manage your work. Make sure you don't worry about people's engagement and their activities. Focus on business outcomes.
Tell them where you want to go and let them somehow come up
exactly.
with
We need. This is a new era for everyone. For us as leaders, for our teams, there needs to be trust. I think trust in a virtual world is sometimes harder to build up than than face to face. So I think we need to accept that sometimes it's going to take longer to build trust, but also be very mindful that somebody can lose trust. You can lose trust faster in a virtual environment. So I think we need to be mindful of those things, but embrace technology and focus on business outcomes and trust your workforce.
I think that summarizes it pretty well. Andy, thanks a lot, and looking forward Eric, when we can collaborate again. Thank you.
Yeah, Eric, it's been a pleasure. See you soon. Take care.
Okay. If you enjoyed this podcast, here's some of our other ones at soundcloud.com/impact presenting, or on our website, www.impactpresenting.com, or our YouTube channel, Impact Presenting.